Welcome to the Deep Dive. We've got some interesting material today, looking into J.L. Collins's The Simple Path to Wealth. It seems like you, our listener, are looking for a clear path through all the financial noise.
Exactly. That's the plan. We're going to pull out the key stuff from this book, the really core ideas, to give you a handle on a simpler way to maybe reach financial independence. No need for all the usual complexity, hopefully.
Okay, so let's dive in. What's the absolute bedrock, the main idea Collins puts forward?
It really comes down to just three things. Super simple, actually. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference, and stay away from debt. Seriously, avoid.
Spend less, invest the rest, avoid debt. It almost sounds too simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's where people get tripped up. They think, wait, it can't be that easy, can it? They're looking for some hidden, complex secret.
It's like we expect finance to be this big, scary, complicated thing. But Collins really pushes back on that, right? He's saying sound investing, the core of it, doesn't need to be overwhelming.
Exactly. He argues that just sticking to those basics consistently year after year, well, that's way more powerful than trying to chase the next big thing or, perfectly time the market.
And one of those pillars, debt. He really, really focuses on that one. He uses some strong language.
Oh, yeah. He calls it the most insidious destroyer of wealth. Pretty intense, huh? But, when you look at how much debt people are carrying.
It makes sense. The stats are staggering, aren't they? Mortgages, student loans, credit cards. It's trillions. You can see why that message hits home.
And it's not just the numbers on a spreadsheet. He talks about the other costs, the hidden stuff.
Yeah, like how it limits your choices, right? You can't just quit a job you hate or take a risk because so much money is already spoken for. It's like you're working just to pay for past decisions.
Exactly. That feeling of being trapped, being a slave to the paycheck just to service the debt and the stress, the negative emotions that come with it. Shame, guilt. It's heavy stuff.
It really is. So, okay, if someone's in that boat, drowning in debt, what's his way out? He has this kind of tiered system based on interest rates.
He does. Basically, look at the interest rate. If it's super low, like under 3%, he suggests you've got some breathing room. You can pay it off slowly, maybe prioritize investing a bit more.
Okay.
Then there's the middle ground, say 3% to 5%. That's more of a judgment call. Depends on how comfortable you are with it. But anything over 5%,
Uh-oh.
yeah, his advice is pretty blunt. Attack it. Like full-on assault. Throw everything you can at it.
And how does he suggest doing that? Is there a specific plan?
Yep. Step 1, list out every single debt you have. Get it all down on paper.
Yeah.
Step 2, slash your spending. And he means really slash it, ruthlessly cut out non-essentials, coffee, subscriptions, eating out. Be brutal.
Okay, free up cash.
Exactly. Then you take all that freed up cash and hammer the debt with the highest interest rate first. Just make minimum payments on everything else once that highest one is gone.
You take that payment and add it to the next highest, the snowball thing.
Well, similar, but he focuses purely on the interest rate, not the balance size. So it's more like an avalanche, tackling the most expensive debt first. He's actually not a fan of the traditional snowball method, paying off small debts for quick wins.
Ah, okay. Why not? The psychological boost seems appealing.
He argues the math is what matters. You save more money, potentially a lot more, by hitting the highest interest rate first, even if it takes longer to feel like you're making progress. He's also skeptical about debt consolidation loans.
Really? Even if they lower the overall rate?
Yeah, he feels like you need to feel the pain, kind of, and actively kill each debt. Consolidating can sometimes make you feel like you've solved it without actually changing the underlying spending habits that got you there.
Makes sense. Keep the focus sharp. Now, what about good debt? Things like mortgages or student loans.
He's super cautious there, too. He warns against thinking any debt is truly good. Even mortgages or student loans carry risks,
Right.
especially the risk of borrowing way more than you need or can comfortably handle.
Like with college costs just exploding.
Exactly. He points that out. People end up with absolutely crushing student debt, sometimes for degrees that don't even lead to high-paying jobs. It's a trap. So caution is key, even with so-called good debt.
Okay, that's a really important perspective.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a bit. He talks about something called FU money. Sounds intriguing. What's that about?
Huh. Yeah, the name grabs you. It's basically building up enough savings and investments that you have. Options. Freedom. It's not necessarily enough to retire on tomorrow, but enough that you're not trapped.
Tractile.
Like trapped in a job you hate or forced to say yes to things you don't want to do just because you need the money. It's having a cushion that lets you say no or even, F you if you need to.
He actually used it himself, didn't he? Shared some stories.
He did. Talks about times when having that financial buffer allowed him to negotiate for like more time off or to push back on things at work. And eventually it gave him the freedom to just walk away from jobs that weren't right for him anymore. It's about control.
Control over your own life and time. That sounds pretty powerful.
Right.
And he suggests this is something listeners can aim for, right? To get away from that feeling of being,
Yeah.
what did he call it? A gilded slave.
Exactly. Someone who has a decent income, maybe nice things, but still feels completely tied down by their financial obligations. FU money is the antidote to that. It's about autonomy.
Okay, powerful stuff. Now, he also throws out this idea. Can pretty much anyone become a millionaire? Is that realistic?
Well, he makes a compelling case that mathematically, at least, it's more possible than most people think, especially for middle-income earners over a long time frame. He uses historical stock market data.
The S&P 500 numbers.
Right. He points out that historically, the U.S. stock market, represented by something like the S&P 500 index, has averaged, somewhere around 10-12% annual return with dividends reinvested over long periods. Let's say from 1975 to 2015, it was about 11.9%.
And dividends are.
Oh, sorry. That's just a share of the company's profits paid out to shareholders. Reinvesting means you use that cash to buy more shares, which then earn more dividends. It creates a snowball effect.
Compounding.
Exactly. The magic of compounding. And he shows how, even a modest initial sum, maybe $12,000 back in 75, or even just investing consistently, say $130 a month, thanks to that compounding over decades, it could grow to over $1 million by 2015.
Wow. That really highlights the importance of time, doesn't it? Starting early makes a huge difference.
A massive difference. But he also pivots a bit. It's not just about hitting that arbitrary $1 million number. It's more about achieving financial freedom, whatever that means for you, and how much you spend is just as crucial as how much you earn or invest.
Right. He had that stark comparison.
Yeah.
Someone living super frugally versus someone burning through cash.
Yeah, like comparing someone getting by on maybe $7,000 a year to someone spending $175,000 every quarter. The amount you need to save to be free is vastly different. It really drives home that controlling your spending, the demand side, is critical.
So it always comes back to that core formula again.
Spend less, invest the rest, avoid debt. Yep. He even gives a more down-to-earth example. Say someone earns $25,000 a year.
Wait.
If they could somehow manage to live on half of that, $12,500, and invest the other half consistently, using those historical average returns and the common 4% rule for withdrawal and retirement.
The 4% rule being?
Oh, it's just a guideline saying you can likely withdraw about 4% of your investment portfolio value each year without running out of money. So using that, he shows how even on that modest income, financial independence becomes achievable over time. It takes discipline, obviously, but the math works.
It really makes you wonder why more people don't feel like it's possible. He talks about that too, right? Consumer culture.
Absolutely. We're just bombarded constantly with ads telling us to buy more, upgrade now, get the latest gadget, often financed with easy credit. It makes saving and investing feel countercultural, almost impossible, even when the numbers suggest otherwise.
It's a good reminder to question those messages. Now, he also talks about shifting how we even think about money, not just what it buys.
Exactly. Moving from, what can this money buy me, to, what can this money earn me? It's a fundamental mind shift.
And he uses that Mike Tyson example, right?
Yeah.
Huge income,
But ended up bankrupt. Perfect illustration. Earning a ton of money doesn't automatically make you wealthy if you don't have the right mindset, if you don't see money as a tool to generate more money, not just something to spend.
And this ties into opportunity cost.
Precisely. Opportunity cost is the value of what you give up when you choose to spend money one way instead of another. It's the potential growth you miss out on.
Like the car example, buying a $20,000 car.
Yeah. It's not just the $20,000 you spent. It's what that $20,000 could have become if you'd invested it instead. If it grew at, say, 8% a year, over 10, 20, 30 years, you're missing out on potentially hundreds of thousands in future value because of that purchase today.
Oof. That definitely makes you think twice about big purchases. Okay, so investing is key. He's big on stocks, specifically index funds. How does he suggest we think about those, especially given how scary the market can seem?
Right. He starts with that famous Warren Buffett quote. Rule number 1, never lose money. But he quickly clarifies, Buffett doesn't mean your portfolio will never go down in value. That's impossible.
So what does it mean?
It means think long term. Don't make stupid decisions. Don't gamble. Understand what you own. And crucially, don't panic sell when the market inevitably drops. That's how you lock in losses.
He even points out Buffett himself lost a massive amount on paper during the 2008 crisis, didn't he?
Billions. Yeah. It just shows. Even the best investors experience huge downturns. It's normal. The key is your reaction. Don't panic. Maybe even see it as a chance to buy more shares on sale.
And he encourages shifting perspective, right? Not thinking of stocks as blinking numbers on a screen.
But as owning tiny pieces of actual businesses, thousands of them. If you're in a broad market index fund like VTS, AX, Vanguard Toll, stock market index fund is what he often recommends, you own a sliver of Apple, of Microsoft, of countless companies across the whole U.S. economy.
So you're betting on the overall success of American business long term.
Exactly. And these indexes are self-cleansing. Weaker companies eventually fall out, stronger ones take their place. So over time, the index tends to reflect the growth of the economy. He has incredible faith in just sticking with a simple, low-cost total stock market index fund for the long haul.
Okay, that makes sense conceptually. But what about the timing? People get nervous. Is now a good time to invest? The market seems high. Or should I wait for a crash? How does he address those very common fears?
He addresses them very directly. First off, trying to time the market. Predicting the highs and lows, he says, forget it, it's impossible, a fool's game.
No matter what the experts on TV say.
Nope. He argues, convincingly I think, that nobody can do it consistently. Despite inevitable crashes, corrections, bear markets, the stock market has historically been the best place to build wealth, and the long-term trend has always been upwards.
And he uses history to back this up.
Oh, yeah. He points to major downturns. The 70s recession, Black Monday, 87, the dot-com bust, 9/11, the '08 financial crisis. Huge, scary events. But every single time, the market eventually recovered and reached new highs.
So these drops, they're not exceptions, they're just part of the ride.
Exactly. Expected turbulence, not a reason to jump out of the plane. So that idea of waiting for the perfect time, waiting for a crash to invest,
Flawed.
deeply flawed. Because you'll likely miss out on gains while you wait, and you'll probably be too scared to buy when the crash actually happens anyway. Same goes for selling when things look good, hoping to buy back lower. You have to be right twice. Almost impossible.
He had that line about if someone could time the market consistently.
They'd be richer and more famous than Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
It puts it in perspective. So he shows charts like the Dow Jones over 60 years or the S&P 500, even through that so-called lost decade after 2000. The overall trend is undeniably up.
So future crashes are guaranteed?
Absolutely guaranteed, but so are future recoveries. That's the key belief you need to have.
So the real question isn't, is now the right time?
Right. The real question is, given the historical performance and the inevitability of volatility, should I be invested in the stock market at all for my long-term goals? And if the answer is yes, then you need the stomach for the ride. You need to be prepared emotionally.
That emotional preparedness seems critical. Now, sticking with that simple approach, he contrasts it with some more complex strategies people advocate for, doesn't he?
He does. He mentions encountering a financial expert pushing this very complicated diversification plan. Like, you need emerging market bonds and commodities and real estate investment trusts and all this stuff because markets are supposedly more adaptive and volatile now. And this expert apparently dismissed the simple buy and hold index fund strategy.
And Collins' reaction was,
Basically, that's nuts. His counter is, instead of juggling dozens of complex investments you barely understand, why not just truly understand the nature of the one powerful asset class stocks and focus on managing your own behavior?
meaning don't panic sell.
Exactly. Remember the key facts. Crashes happen. They always have. The market always recovers. It always has. The long-term trend is up. It always has been. So build your mental fortitude. Ignore the noise. Stay the course.
It sounds so simple, yet so hard in practice sometimes.
It really is. He emphasizes that you'll likely live through several major financial crises in your investing lifetime. It's not the end of the world. If you have the right mindset, those are actually opportunities.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. If we had to boil down the absolute core message from The Simple Path to Wealth for our listener, what would it be?
It's gotta be. Keep it simple. Think long-term. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference steadily, probably in a broad, low-cost stock market index fund, and avoid debt religiously. Understand that volatility is normal. Patience and discipline win.
Right. Control what you can control, your spending, your savings rate, your reaction to market noise, and trust the process. Trust the long-term growth of the economy.
That's the essence of it. So maybe the thing to reflect on is, how comfortable are you with that trade-off? The path involves embracing some uncertainty, some volatility to achieve that long-term freedom and security. It kind of reminds me of that old saying about not trading essential liberty for temporary safety.
Interesting thought. You can't have the potential rewards of the market without accepting the risks, the ups and downs.
Pretty much. So we definitely encourage you to check out the book itself if this resonated. There's much more detail and plenty of good stories in there.
Absolutely. And let us know if you have more questions or other topics you'd like us to explore in a future deep dive. We're always curious about what's on your mind.